Miss Kristi here, and I'm so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make homemade chocolate pudding. This sweet dessert uses just 5 ingredients and cooks in our microwave for less than 3 minutes. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here.
All is calm and all is bright tonight.
Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you'll need are 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 2½ tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1½ tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 cup of milk, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. The supplies you'll need are a small microwave-safe bowl, liquid measuring cup, 1/4 cup dry measuring cup, 1 tablespoon, 1/2 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, a whisk, a piece of plastic wrap or saran wrap, and oven mitts for safety. Okay, great. Your hands are clean and my hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started making our homemade chocolate pudding. This is just a fun, quick, sweet treat. We don't have to do anything on our stovetop. We can pop it in the microwave, put it in our refrigerator to cool for a bit, and then we've made ourselves chocolate pudding. So the first thing you'll want to do is grab your microwave-safe bowl and put it in front of you. A couple things about the bowl that you choose. It does need to be a pretty big bowl because when we cook it in the microwave, it will rise up a little bit. So you want to make sure it's not going to overflow. So if this is about the size or a little bit bigger, I'd go bigger than smaller. Second of all, you want it to be glass because we will put some plastic wrap on this before we pop it in the refrigerator. And usually plastic wrap will stick better to a glass bowl than a plastic bowl, so it just makes your life a little bit easier. So this is the bowl that I'm using. I'm gonna have it right in front of me. This is where we will mix all of our ingredients and pop it in the microwave. So put your mixing bowl right in front of you, and then go ahead and grab your 1/4 cup dry measuring cup. It's one that says 1/4, and then your sugar. We need 1/4 cup of sugar. So we're gonna do all of our dry ingredients first. So I'm just scooping out 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Let's get a little bit more. And putting that right in the bowl. This is what sweetens it up. You can put your sugar to the side if you have any left over. Now you need to grab your cocoa powder. We need 2½ tablespoons of cocoa powder. That's what gives it that chocolate flavor. So I'm gonna take my cocoa powder, and then you'll also need your 1 tablespoon, it says 1 TBSP, and your 1/2 tablespoon, so it says 1/2 TBSP. You can put your 1/4 dry measuring cup to the side. We're gonna use these now. So I'm gonna do 2½ tablespoons of cocoa powder. So, take your cocoa powder, there's 1 tablespoon. Here is 2 tablespoons. And then keep your tablespoon near you because we're gonna use that for our cornstarch. Now take your 1/2 tablespoon. It's the one that says 1/2, and we're gonna do 1/2 tablespoon. All right, you can set your cocoa powder to the side. Now I'm going to grab my cornstarch. This is what's going to help thicken up our chocolate pudding. And we need 1½ tablespoons. So grab that bigger one that says 1 TBSP. We're gonna do 1 tablespoon of cornstarch in here. Now you can put this to the side. We are done using the tablespoon. Grab your 1/2 tablespoon. It says 1/2 TBSP, and we're gonna do 1/2 tablespoon of cornstarch too. So 1½ tablespoons all together. Now you can put your 1/2 tablespoon to the side, put your cornstarch to the side. We are done with that. And now from here, I'm just going to grab my whisk that we have in our supply list. I'm going to mix these dry ingredients together a little bit before we add our milk. I wanna make sure that that cocoa powder gets broken up a little bit. We mix in the cornstarch with the sugar, and then we will add our milk and we'll whisk it one more time. So just mixing it. If you see any big clumps of cocoa powder, which can happen, just try to break those up a little bit. I also like to use a clear glass bowl when I bake with things like this so I can see that all of the ingredients are mixed together. Sometimes I like to pick it up, give it a look at the bottom, make sure nothing's sticking down there. All right, now I'm going to add my milk. So grab your liquid measuring cup and your milk, and we need to measure out 1 cup of milk. So I always recommend putting your measuring cup on a flat surface so you get an even measure. We are gonna measure up to the 1 cup line where it just says 1. All right, 1 cup of milk. Now I'm using just 1% milk. You could use almond milk if you wanted. You could use soy milk. You could use whole milk, 2%, whichever you have in your kitchen. Go ahead and put your milk to the side, but let's dump this 1 cup in here, right into that bowl that we had our cocoa powder and sugar in. You can put your liquid measuring cup to the side. We are done using that. Now grab your whisk again, and we are just gonna carefully mix this all together. So what thickens up our chocolate pudding is that cornstarch in there. So we wanna make sure we get this all mixed together before we cook it in the microwave. Now you can definitely make chocolate pudding on the stovetop. It just takes a little bit longer. I find this a lot easier. So just keep whisking. Now you can see if you look inside here, there's a bunch of like little cocoa powder balls. So we wanna make sure that those get mixed up, which is why using a whisk is helpful compared to just a spoon. So what happens next is we're gonna pop this in the microwave for 2.5 minutes, and then we actually have one final ingredient, which is our vanilla extract, and we don't add that until after it's done in the microwave. So whisking this together, however long it takes you to get most of that cocoa powder dissolved into the milk. It's gonna be a bit frothy. All right, from here, keep your whisk nearby because we will use that once we add our vanilla extract. This just now needs to go in our microwave for 2.5 minutes. Like I said, so you have about half of your bowl full. That way I know it's not gonna boil over when it cooks in the microwave. So if you have put this into a bowl and it's close to the top, you might wanna switch it into a different bowl before you pop it in the microwave. But let's cook this now for 2.5 minutes, so 2 minutes and 30 seconds in our microwave, and then we'll talk about getting it out safely and adding our last ingredient. All right, friends, this is exciting. Our 2.5 minutes is over, so now we just need to get our bowl back in front of us in our workspace and add our vanilla extract. However, that bowl is going to be very hot because it's glass. It just cooked in the microwave for 2.5 minutes, so I am gonna use oven mitts to get that bowl out and put it in front of me. So I'm gonna put my oven mitts on for safety and just bring this back right in front of you to add our vanilla extract. All right, friends, so we just took it out of the microwave. That is a very hot bowl, so definitely please use your oven mitts. You're gonna put them back on, put it in the fridge as well, just to make sure we don't burn our hands, but we need to add our final ingredient, which is vanilla extract. So go ahead and grab your 1 teaspoon, it says 1 TSP, and the vanilla extract that you're going to use today, and we're just going to carefully, because you can see it's steaming, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Drizzle that over. You can put your teaspoon to the side, put your vanilla extract to the side. That was our final ingredient. Now go ahead and grab the whisk again, and we are just going to carefully, I'm not touching this bowl, unless you have your oven mitt on still. I'm going to mix this together. Now, if yours happened to boil over because your bowl was a bit too small, no worries. Salvage what you can and mix this all back in. And you can see it's starting to look like chocolate pudding. It's a little bit thick, but the cooling time in the refrigerator is what's important. So now that I have this vanilla extract mixed together, try to scrape down my sides a little bit. You can put your whisk away, we are done with that. I'm going to grab my piece of plastic wrap or saran wrap, whatever you like to call it, and I'm going to place this on top. And I actually want to push it down to touch the top of my pudding. That's going to help so that when it cools in the refrigerator, you don't get like a film or a skin on there. So I'm going to take my plastic wrap and just carefully push it down to where it's just gently touching the top of my pudding. Okay. Again, we talked about it in the beginning. This is why it's somewhat helpful to have a glass bowl as well, because then your plastic wrap will stick a bit more to the bowl. Plastic doesn't tend to stick to plastic, but it does like to stick to glass. All right, so you can see now, I put my oven mitts back on here to show you that I have the saran wrap touching the bottom of the top of my pudding. So I've created a little layer here. It's a protectant so we don't get that film on there. Now we need to pop this in our refrigerator for about an hour. We're just cooling it, giving it more time to thicken up to become that pudding consistency. So anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, I find that an hour is best if you have patience for that. So I'm setting a 1 hour timer, 60 minutes. I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator, and as soon as it's cooled, we will talk about trying it out. All right, so start my timer, pop my oven mitts on because that bowl is still hot, and we put it in our refrigerator. All right, friends, this is exciting. So our homemade chocolate pudding has just sat in the refrigerator for about an hour to give it time to cool and harden up. So now all we're going to do is take it out of our refrigerator, put it in front of us on our workspace, take off some plastic wrap, and then we get to try it. All right, so I've just taken this out of the refrigerator. Now, the longer you let it sit, the thicker it's going to get and be more of that pudding consistency. So if you want to make this in the morning, pop it in the refrigerator for the day and have it as a little dessert after dinner, that would work perfectly too. All I'm going to do now is take off our plastic wrap. Like I said, this prevented a film from being created when it sits in the refrigerator. So you can just take off your plastic wrap, pop that to the side. And like I said, because of that cornstarch, it's thickened up and now it's more of that chocolate pudding consistency. So from here, you can scoop out a little bit, put it in a bowl with a spoon and enjoy, or you could just simply eat it right out of here. If you don't eat it all at once or you don't share it all at once, go ahead and put some plastic wrap back on it, and you can keep it in the refrigerator, maybe put it in a container with a Tupperware container with a lid that is secure to keep it fresh for a day or so until you have a chance to finish it. So I do hope you enjoyed learning how to make our chocolate homemade pudding. If you have any questions when you make it or you make it again, let me know, and maybe we can even share it next week if you send me a picture of what you made. Now, speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 95, we are learning how to make spaghetti for one. This quick dinner uses just 3 ingredients plus a little water, and we actually only cook it in our microwave for a few minutes. There's no stovetop needed. In order to cook along and make our spaghetti for one next week, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen. 4 ounces of spaghetti noodles, 1 cup of spaghetti sauce, half a cup of water, and half a cup of cooked ground beef, which is optional. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. Like I said, I do hope you enjoyed learning how to make our homemade chocolate pudding. I know I had fun, and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out on Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends. Grab your spoon. It's time to eat.